We flipped a coin, okay? You and me. You and me. Coin flip is sacred.
Y'all ready for a show today, baby? Showtime, baby. We've been waiting all week for this. This is where it happens right here, man. We man up, we stand up. We man up, we stand up. We all we got. We all we need. We all we got. We all we need. We all we got. We all we need.
Hit anything that moves. We're playmakers, man. We the best, nothing less.
You don't like this one? Trust me, you don't like it.
We're between the white lines. This is football. Welcome to the big league. I won the toss. I took the football. Drive it down their throat.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your skull?
Hey, every season is full of defining moments. Let's make this day a defining moment for us in our quest.
Game time! Game time!
Welcome, everybody, to the Coin Flip, Week 5 of the 2022 NFL season. Gup here on a Thursday around lunchtime. Should be out early evening tonight, and then you have all weekend to listen to this, and then we'll update things as we go for the next 48 hours or so, 2.5 days. If you want to join now, use the code COIN, get 20% off any package for life. It includes a 7-day risk-free trial. You can upgrade if you join and want to upgrade to weekly to monthly, monthly to annual, or add tools later on down the road. If you don't do that out the gate, you may do that, and the code stays with you the whole time. Rate and review us on iTunes. We'll be doing some more giveaways the week of Thanksgiving for Black Friday and things like that. That will get you into the drawing for free. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like this video, and in the comment section, tell me your favorite running back in the 5K range this week. There are several options there that, for the most part, are all around the same kind of ownership, but several options that people may go to. So tell me your favorite running back in the 5K range. Normal pod today, we'll go through the playbook, stacks, main and mini stacks, favorite super contests, circa millions, lines that I like, the two favorite. Upset of the week, survivor pick of the week, and then price pick and underdog plays as well. 12-game slate again this week as we have Packers-Giants Sunday morning for the London game. Bills are the only double-digit favorite this week. They are at home, favored by 14. 11 home favorites, 5 home underdogs. Largest underdog being the Panthers. Plus 6.5 hosting the 49ers. That line has moved quite a bit since the Monday game where the Niners looked very good against the Rams. Ownership, as we sit here I ran this late last night and kind of tweaked a little bit this morning. Certainly we'll have updates over the next 2 days and into Sunday morning. Bucks Falcons is the number one game ownership right now. Majority of that on the Bucks, 71% to 41%, so 112 total. Jags Houston number 2. That one's a lot closer to even at 95%, and then it drops significantly to you have none at 80%. So the next best is 78%, but you got 6 games between 72% and 78% game ownership. So a lot of focus right now on those 2 games that I just mentioned. We'll see how that shakes out as the week goes along. Then you have pretty much a lot of, I don't know if you say even, flat ownership between 6 more games. And even the, a few below. None are real low owned. The lowest is 46%, and that's Browns, Jaguars. Chargers. So pretty flat ownership spread out outside of those 2 games. In general, I don't know if I'm on the whole Bucks being that high owned at this moment. We'll get into that as we get going. I'll start out with QB. I go through each position. I talked about this last week. This is more, some of these do fit into stacks for sure when we get to that at the end of the pod, but some of these outside of quarterback, so running back, wide receivers really are like guys that I like, and I'll hit on it. They could be one-offs, mini correlated stacks, or in stacks, and that's going position by position. And then I come in and talk about stacks and mini stacks after all that. Quarterbacks, it's probably going to come down to, as far as plays go, I like Hurts over Allen this week. obviously Buffalo being a 14-point home favorite, you would think Allen gets there, right? And you could also say, what if it gets blown out and they just start running the ball? But the other side of that is if they do blow out the Steelers, you would think Allen has a lot to do with that. But for $100 cheaper, I kind of like Hurts. Right now, he's less owned, but they've been pretty close on ownership the last several weeks. Last week, I think we also had Lamar in there right around the same price. I do think you could see some drop to the mid-level quarterbacks, not all across the board, but if you kind of look at the slate, you do have an opportunity to pay down at tight end this week. The highest priced tight end on the list is Kittle, and I don't know how many will go there. I don't have him very high on, but there's no, Kelsey, no Andrews, those guys that are high up priced that people do like to get to and pair with the quarterback. So, and defense you can always pay down to, but there are a lot of good running back, wide receiver spots. So people can force Allen, Hurts if they want to. I like Cousins. He would be my second pick, $6,300 at home against the Bears. 7-point favorites. That 1 o'clock slot is always prime for Cousins. Could they run all over Chicago? Yeah, that could happen. So, but he's going to be low owned. It's a good spot. He's on my radar. And I think he'll be low owned because I think if people are going to go off of Allen, Hurts, they'll certainly probably go to Tom Brady, just 9-point home favorite against Atlanta, get some weapons back. Had to see how Godwin, that one looked ugly, but he came back into the game. So, I mean, as he gets more guys back, that's good for Brady. They didn't really run much at all. I kind of think it could be a good bounce back week for Fournette. We'll get to that in a second. But I think Cousins could get kind of left out. Or people are going to go to, so my value plays, you got Bridgewater, Trevor Lawrence. And that, you could still go, you could argue maybe Winston just because Seattle's D gives up, a lot of points, assuming he starts, all that kind of stuff. Mac Jones, assuming he starts and is healthy, we've seen, he thinks he can play against Detroit. Even if it's Zap, Billy's, Zap, you could go there, but just because Detroit's so bad on defense, he's 5,200. So I think people will gravitate towards that, especially last week we saw, the high scoring, cheap game smashed, right? And so Geno Smith, Goff, both did well. Goff wound up being in the Millie Maker lineup, I'm pretty sure. But if you had Geno with some of that game stack, you got there as well. I don't know that we have that this week. I guess right now that would be going Jacksonville and Houston. But I don't know how many people want to go the Houston side of that as far as quarterback goes. So Lawrence maybe gets a little more love at 5,600 at home against Houston, which I like, right? So he's one of my favorites there. Bridgewater, I don't really think it's too much of a drop off from Tua, and we get a pretty decent price drop, $5,400 with those wide receivers. I mean, I think he can be successful, and against the Jets is a good spot. It's not 46, pretty decent. There's no games right now over 49.5. Well, 49 points is the highest. So none in the 50s in the slate. No Chiefs. Let's just pull it up. Our games that aren't on the slate. Oh, I had it there. Hold on. Tonight we got Colts, Broncos, which, that'll be an interesting showdown slate. Could see, we just saw kickers and defenses and stuff do well a couple weeks ago. Maybe back to that, especially Taylor's out and my boy Javonte's out. Man, how brutal is that? He finally, it's like he's going to take over. Gordon fumbles again. I was like, thank God. Finally, he's out of there. Javonte's backfield. Let that boy eat. And he tears his ACL. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So that sucks for him. Giants, Packers. So, Packers can score there. They're not on the slate. That's a Sunday night game. Ravens, Bengals. So a lot of power there. Burrow, Lamar. Bateman's been doing well. Obviously Chase, Higgins, that kind of stuff. And then Raiders, Chiefs. You get Chiefs can score at will and score a lot. So that's a lot of firepower not on the main slate. So you kind of got to think about that. I don't think you're going to need as high of a production, week out of all your players. You still need to hit, pretty good deal. But you can kind of think about that as balance builds work. We can pay down at tight end. I have to worry about an Andrews going off or a Kelsey. So does that allow people to go pay up at quarterback? I'm more just looking at the site right now. I kind of want to pay up for running back wide receivers for the most part, although I do think there's some good cheap spots. It's so early. I mean, still early. I know Thursday didn't seem early, but a lot can happen in the next 48, 60 hours. So I like Hurts. I think he's a good play if you want to pay up. Cousins at mid-tier, maybe a pivot off of Brady, still can score at will, against the Bears type of deal. Could be a little concerned that the Bears don't put up much of a fight, so they're running out the ball late. That causes me a little concern. I like Bridgewater. I think that game could be a sneaky shootout type game. And I like Lawrence a lot. The problem there would be the Jaguars' D is legit. And same thinking is, can Jacksonville get up, shut them down, and they got two running backs they can lean on there. So probably my favorite out of those four, if I don't want to pay it for Hurts, would be Bridgewater right now with Waddle, Hill, and all that kind of stuff. You can mix and match there. You can run it back with a couple options with New York as well. Probably one of my favorite game environments, and it's right now 8th on the game ownership deal. So I kind of like that. We'll see how that looks Sunday morning. And my fade would be Allen. I'll update that Saturday or Sunday. I would fade Allen or Hurts in that situation. I don't want to pay up for two quarterbacks if I'm putting them in my pool right now. Maybe I get to Sunday and go, you know what? I don't like Hurts on the road. I think they, can attack a little bit differently, and we just go Allen and hope he takes over that game. Those two are just like last week. I'll make a decision on one of them and probably fade the other. Running back, I love Chubb again this week. Didn't necessarily get there, but he's really close to a breakout guy. I think they're going to be able to run the ball on the Chargers a lot this week. It's one of the higher game totals as well. $8,000 right now. I don't have anybody wanting to pay for him there. Because there's some good pay down options this week. I like him a lot, and I'll probably be heavy on him. I like Hunt too, but Hunt would be more of a MME large field GPP type deal. Fournette, I think is a good bounce back candidate this week. I mentioned that earlier. At home against Atlanta, a lot of people played him last week. He did not do much at all. It was a Sunday night game, but he was pretty popular, especially at captain. Kind of laid an egg. Would they have like -3 yards at halftime rushing? He may be high on, but I don't know. I'm going to see. I have him up there, but I'm interested to see what people, listen. I'm behind on the, listen to all kind of pods and stuff like that. Very, very, very busy week for me so far, but I still got a lot of drive time and stuff over the next, today. Kids are on fall break. Wife stayed home with them today. I'll be off tomorrow, so I'm going to hang out with them a little bit, but everything will stay out as far as content goes. I like Fournette. I like Cook, and I think maybe – depending on how I want to play the Minnesota game, if I don't go Cousins, maybe I go Cook as some mini correlated stacks with Chicago, although there's not a lot of Chicago pieces I like, or just play Cook as a one-off. He just goes into my one-off pool, let him fit in where he can. But I'd probably put a rule in there where I don't play like the Minnesota passing stack with Cook. I just kind of go, well, they get up however they get up, and then Cook, winds up dominating late, especially in the second half, gets his yardage at that price, $7,300. I don't think he'll be too high owned. Hasn't had that big breakout game yet. I feel like he's close to doing that slate breaking type of deal. At home against Chicago seems like a good spot for him. Values, I still like Ramondre. $5,500. I know Harris, that it's hard to play that, but I think he does have that upside, especially against Detroit, right? Probably want to wait to see who the quarterback is until we decide going all in. If it's Zappe, you kind of feel like they would try to establish the run at home, dominate the clock, make Zappe be safe with the ball, hand it off a lot so both running backs would get in. Then it kind of would come into a touchdown, variant type of deal. $5,500, still a good price for him this week. He'll be owned, but because of some of the other ones we'll talk about around that price, and I mentioned at the beginning of the pod when I asked the question, there's other options that people can go to. Penny, Wilson, Breece Hall, even Harris for the Patriots. All of them, 53, 54, 55, 5,600. Henderson, Akers, they're all right there in that price range. So I think it could get spread out a little bit. With Patterson being out for Atlanta, I'm interested to see. I thought Algier would be higher owned. I got him around 7 to 9%, which I would love at $4,700. I think he's legit. BYU product. They have a good high script. And maybe he's lower on because people think Atlanta's got to throw the ball. They're going to be behind. I think that game stays closer overall. Maybe Tampa Bay's up 3 late, gets a touchdown, they cover. I don't want any part of the spread or any side of it. But I think Atlanta hangs around a little bit. And I think he looked really well when he got the ball last week. It wasn't as many attempts, but I think he could be, especially for $4,700, I'll take that chance this week. It's a good pay down spot. If it allows me to get up to some of these, Chubb or Cook, the wide receivers that I want to get to, or if you're wanting to pay up for one of the quarterbacks, that's a good, especially if he's not going to be super high owned. We'll see how that looks come Sunday morning. But right now I have him under 10%, and I like that a lot. Breece Hall is a guy I think slowly is taking over that backfield. We all kind of thought it. I drafted him in my rookie draft this year, so I'm hoping he kind of separates. It looks like his separation is getting stronger and stronger. They're at home against Miami. I like it a lot for $5,400. We'll see how popular he gets. But because I like that Jets game and I really like the other side, he's a guy I could run it back with Bridgewater, Tyreek, Waddle, run it back with Hall and one wide receiver, whether it be Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, however you want to do that. Even tight end Conklin you could do. So I definitely want some exposure there. My favorite right now would be Kamara. Assuming he plays, I know he's questionable. I have him as in right now. We'll see. I just don't like much about the Saints right now. There's too many question marks, too many injuries, not a lot of continuity. I know they're playing Seattle, so maybe they get, somewhat owned, because of that. That's a spot I probably don't want much of this week. Wide receivers, I like Jefferson. Again, he hadn't really paid off, so I think his ownership is going to be low, especially for the price. I think people go down to get Diggs or up to Cooper Kupp. And Jefferson probably sub 10%. Now, this is one of those deals where you could take a couple different angles here. You can go, well, I'll just play Jefferson and Cook and hope those two smash and don't really worry about stacking. And maybe you one off those two in many of your builds and just don't worry about stacking that game because there's not much on the Bears side we like, right? You can make rules to say I want to do in my cousin stacks, I don't want any Cook, right? Something like that. But I do like Jefferson this week. I think he's due. I hate that word, I know. But I think he could have a big week against Chicago and kind of get his season back rolling again. I like A.J. Brown. Definitely like him in a stack with Cousins. I think Arizona will be able to score enough and keep that game. It's obviously the highest total right now, which is surprising that it's not more on the ownership side. But I don't think many people are high on Arizona in general. So $7,500 is a lot, especially if you want to stack it with Hurts. It really makes you have to start paying down. So I think that keeps that kind of game stack in check because most people don't want to pay that much for, a combo, especially with Brown or Devontae Smith. I like Devontae Smith just as much. He's actually a value play, but I think people get a little worried about Hurts can still get there without a wide receiver. We know that. Tight end, backs out of the backfield, running, right? He can rush. Which if that game kind of gets away a little bit, you can see where Brown kind of just doesn't have that good of a game. But I think the ownership stays in check there. He is in play. I probably would only play him in stacks. I don't know if I'd one off him. I'd rather just go, Jefferson so I like that Miami game a lot. So, I got Waddle cheaper. My favorite one-off play, London, we'll get to in just a second. But, I think you could go many different ways with A.J. Brown this week. My next play is Waddle. I like Tyreek. If you're going to do stacks, he'll be in my stack deal, at the end of the pod for sure. But for everything, considering all things in, for what is he, $1,300 cheaper, and I'm showing less ownership even with that with Tyreek. I don't mind him. I do think Bridgewater probably looks to Tyreek a little more, but I don't think the downside with Waddle was there. I like them both, but if I was going to play as a one-off or outside of that game stack, I like Waddle the most. London is probably one of my favorite plays of the week, $5,900. I think Atlanta, again, I'm scripting that they keep it closer for the majority of the game. Therefore, and I think he'll be able to get his. And so for $5,900 against Tampa, I actually, and we'll talk about it in a second, one of my favorite mini correlated stacks is Fournette and in London, just a two-man there in that game if you want to do that. I think Pitts, we know that's just been a weird deal this year. I'm probably gonna go back to him. I got him in a tight end list just to give him a chance. Maybe it's a Mariota thing. I don't know why he's not getting there, and if he's not getting separation. I got to watch a little more film on that, but I do like London no matter what, especially where I need to pay down. I know that's not super cheap. There's a lot more cheaper options, but for 5,900 and his upside, I like him a lot. Especially if you are in the thinking the Bucs are going to dominate, that's a great. And the Falcons are going to have to pass a lot. Then London becomes a really good play in that game script. Values, I like Olave. Need to watch the quarterback to see what happens. Is it Winston? Is it? It doesn't matter. I mean, but Winston's last game, I think he had 11 or 12 targets from him. So I don't think it really matters. They're at home again against Seattle. I don't want a ton of this game, but Olave is one. Again, I could throw into as a one-off play with all my other mix or all my other stacks and be fine with it. Devontae Smith, I mentioned him earlier, 6,000. That's a good price. I could go just Hurts and him, and get one piece of Arizona if I want to, and be perfectly fine with that. Rondell Moore, so there's a guy in that game I do like. $4,100 upside is strong. I think he's getting, I think last week was his first game back. Probably gets a little bit more involved this week. He's an electric player. Hollywood obviously takes a lot from the defense, so I think he could get open and get quite a few looks this week. And at that price, I really like it. My fade right now would be Kupp. We know what he's going to do. I get it. I struggle to think he's going to get a lot of touches. I know that. The question will be, does he get enough to pay off the almost $10,000 salary? If he gets 21, 22, I don't know. Diggs obviously tries, isn't aggressive, and gets at picks, but I don't know that Kupp has that over-the-top type deal I think he's way more of a 12 target or 12 catches, 120 yards type deal, which gets him to 24 or so, which is, about what we think. But I think the Rams O-line is going to struggle against Dallas a lot. So I like Dallas in that game in general. It's just a lot of money. So I don't know if I get there right now. And right now he'd be my fade. I'd rather save the money with Jefferson for $700 cheaper, me personally. And I got Kupp twice the ownership, even at that price. So that's another reason. Tight ends, Pitts will be on my short list to take a look at. I don't know if I'm all there yet, but the price is coming down relative to his performance. So $4,400. Man, he's got to have a good game coming at him, right? Is it against Tampa Bay? I don't know. But if you're in that mindset that the Tampa Bay is going to score a lot, be up, cover that spread, and be up early, covering the spread and dominating early are two different things, especially for game script. A lot of people make that mistake. They go, well, Atlanta's going to win by 10, Tampa Bay's going to win by 10, so Atlanta can't run. That's not true. Atlanta may cover late, and Atlanta can stay in their same game script game mode for the majority of the game. Now, Tampa Bay get out 21-3, that's a different story. So that's why game script is really important in showdown. But in this type of environment, if you like that game and you go, man, I think Tampa Bay just jumps on them early. Tom Brady's going to be pissed, divorce talk, all this stuff. He's going to come out and light them up. If you believe that, I think Pitts and London, those guys, are even better plays than what I already like. I think it stays closer for a lot longer. I do think Tampa wins and probably gets the win. Maybe gets the cover. I just think it's a more competitive game throughout than what others may think. Ertz, I think, is a good play. So, obviously, if you're liking that Philly side this week, and a lot of people are, you could run it back with Ertz. You could run it back with Moore. You could run it back with Hollywood. James Conner is a potential running back. So, I think there's some potential there. I don't mind the game stacking at all on either side. Right now, it's right above Miami, New York Jets. So, I don't know if I get to Kyler yet. There's a couple more things I want to dig on deep dive type stuff before I put out my final article Saturday and Sunday. But both those games are mid-pack on game ownership right now, and I don't mind getting some pieces of both of them and hoping it hits. One of them turns into a shootout or Kyler at home, getting some more healthy weapons, being able to disperse it out a little bit more than just Hollywood. Maybe they go off and they push it to Philly. That could be a game script we do like come Sunday morning. So values, if you're going to pay down, I think a lot of people are going to try to pay down tight end this week, just because there's not as big of a gap where you're like, man, if I fade Andrews and he gets that 30 piece, I'm in trouble. There's not much of that. And so people are like, I'll just pay down this week, which makes sense. But I don't mind Irv Smith. Definitely don't mind him in stacks if you're going the Viking stack. Hunter Henry, we just saw Hawkinson carve up. Not Hawkinson. Disley did all right, but there was a tight end 2 or 3 weeks ago that did well against Detroit. But either way, probably like him more if Zappy's playing, because I think they would. I mean, not Zappy. Mac Jones is playing because it's probably more comfortable to call their plays normal. But at $2,900, I don't mind him against Detroit, just because Detroit's giving up passing all over the place anyways. And Devontae Parker is probably their best option, but I don't mind Henry there for that cheap price. Logan Thomas, if you want to go there. I'm not high on Washington at all right now, but they are home. $3,200 as well. Could be another cheap option. I may like Ingram a little bit better for $100 cheaper. Those are all real close in that high 2,000, low 3,000 range. I don't see a ton of high ceiling there. It's just more who you feel comfortable with or who fits your script, your stacks, mini stacks, stuff like that better. Fade right now probably Higbee. I think will garnish a lot of the ownership at that price. 4,300, coming off a pretty good game. People may think the same thing happens because Dallas does have a great pass D, and so I almost said Goff. I just went blank. Stafford. That Stafford will look to him again if he's not looking to cut, and so that would kind of be my fade right now. Is just kind of stay away from that in general. Defenses, I really like. Depending on what you do at tight end, I don't mind really paying up a little bit. I think 49ers are in a great spot against Carolina. Carolina's just not moving the ball very well. We know Baker can turn it over. We know Baker can get sacked. That defense looked great against the Rams. The Bills, 4,100, just no one's going to pay for that much. And you get a 14-point home favorite. You got to think the defense is going to do some things there. You get a rookie starting his first start on the road in Buffalo with Kenny Pickett. Seems like a good spot to try to fit some bills in, especially if you're doing, some 20, 50 builds, make it work. You're paying down at tight end probably already, so I think you can afford to pay up a little bit of defense if you want to take that risk this week. Value plays, there's not like a stick-out chalk. I do think the Cowboys are probably one of the higher owned at 2,500 just because they can get pressure on the Rams, and we just saw it Monday night. Remember, this pricing came out before that. I think Dallas can do that same pressure on them, so could be popular. I don't mind the Patriots, $2,900 at home. I tend to look for cheap home defenses I think can do well. That's one of them against Detroit. We know Goff can he can easily throw a pick six. $2,900 that gives you a good savings. Then the Panthers, right? They did it last week. They got a defensive touchdown. Jimmy G certainly can turn the ball over. Panthers not great by any means, but their D has done all right. And so for $2,600, I think that's a good play this week as well. Some gut feel plays I like. James Conner, $6,300. Arizona's talked about. They need to get him more involved. They want to get him more involved. They're at home. 5-point dog, but 49 game total. So a lot of opportunity there. He's not going to be owned very much at that price because there's plenty of down. Like we already talked about all the 5,000 running backs you can go to. Maybe this is a week we hit him up, hoping for that upside. We know get around that goal. The worry part is Kyler can still touchdowns from sure, but maybe he gets more involved in that passing game. That really helps. Hunt, I think it's a large field MME play, $6,000. I love Chubb more. But if you want to put him in a player pool, if you're in one of those big 100,000 lineups in a contest type deal, I don't mind Kareem Hunt. Pollard, I like Pollard, and I really like him. Seeing what he's nowhere near as good as Debo, but I think Dallas could use some of that stuff that they saw Debo do and say, Pollard could do some of that type stuff. He's definitely not Debo, but $5,700, I don't mind him at all. Doesn't take a lot for him to break one. He's got that kind of speed. Good play, especially some large field GPP stuff. Thielen, definitely don't want to leave him out. He certainly would be involved in stacks, but I don't mind him as well. If you don't want to pay up for Jefferson this week, I think he's viable. And then Jarvis Landry. Probably like him more if Winston's playing, but $4,300 is cheap enough that I don't mind taking a look at him against Seattle secondary this week. My favorite stacks, kind of already talked about them, but I like Bridgewater with Tyreek, Waddle. Running backs, they share some, and they're not really, I don't want to say they're not dominant, but not as high on them. Probably depends on how you think the game goes, but they're $200 apart. I'd probably lean Mozart if you want, but I mean, just going Bridgewater, Tyreek, Waddle, and then run it back with your favorite jet or two is perfectly fine and enough for me. I like the Jaguars. Lawrence, Kirk, Zay Jones, maybe Marvin Jones, but I definitely like the other two a little bit more. Ingram, you can throw in there at $3,100 at tight end. And then Robinson. In these stacks, I would probably, if you're going to bring a running back in, I'd probably bring Etienne in for $5,100. I don't mind having Robinson in as just a one-off, but I would leave it kind of there. Lawrence, Kirk, Zay Jones, and then maybe Etienne mix and match that type of deal. And I think Lawrence could do well running the ball against Houston. He's not going to, Lamar it, but he is mobile, and I think he could have a good week there for sure. Eagles would be the last one, and that's, there's enough pay down options this week that you go Hurts. I like Devontae for the upside and the savings, but I don't mind A.J. Brown if you want to get him there, or Goddard. You could do that. Miles Sanders, perfectly fine as well. So there's options there, and we already mentioned on the Arizona side, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz, obviously Hollywood, James Conner. You can mix and match some run backs with Arizona as well. That I don't mind that either. Some mini correlated things that I picked out. Fournette and London's a good two-man. Chubb and Mike Williams, I think that's a good two-man stack. You could go A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith with Connors and just do a two-man if you want to do that. Ramondre running back with Amon St. Brown or DJ Chark, assuming one or both play. If only one plays, I think that is a great two-man to just go Stevenson and then a Detroit wide receiver. I don't hate that either. Sneaky stack, 9th in the total ownership by team, 9th. So 8 teams are projected higher right now. Minnesota. So I don't mind. That would be a reason for me to get on them. You go Cousins, Jefferson, Thielen, Irv Smith, mix and match there. Two double stack with Cousins there. Probably don't stack Cook in that. I would just go the wide receiver route with the tight end or both wide receivers if you can make it work. But I like them as kind of a under the radar. I mean, they're not too under the radar at 9th. That's kind of low. So there's 8 other teams projected higher right now as total team ownership. Favorite 2 lines against the spread: Chiefs -7, Cowboys +2.5. Upset of the week, I had the Browns beating the Chargers at home. The Browns are at home, getting 2.5, 3 in some spots. Survivor pick, man, the Packers made us nervous last week for a lot of people, I'm sure, having to win in overtime. So Bills are probably, if you haven't used the Bills, but I do think some have, that's probably an easy just auto play at -14. I think if you didn't go the Packers last week, you could go to them this week. Vikings and Chiefs would be 2 other that I like if you want to be a little different. Hope one of these big, maybe you go Chiefs. I think I like them a lot, and hope for some reason Pittsburgh upsets Buffalo in a letdown spot. One of those type deals. And these, if you made it this far, you're probably 10% of your pool, maybe 15% of your pool is left. And so there's going to be a week where you want to be not on the chalk and kind of hope that chalk busts, and you're on the opposite side to really make it up that ladder and have a chance at it. Underdog and Price Pick, link is in the description. Code is GUP, G-U-P, dollar for dollar match up to $100. Tons of options out there for Underdog. I talked about it on the golf pod as well. Mini spots on PGA and NFL at times where there's good layover. Some of these showdowns you can get in there and do some stuff. So go check all that out for Underdog. My favorite pick'em of the week right now, I like Chubb over 89.5 rushing yards, London over 55.5 passing yards, and Ramondre over 54.5 rushing yards as well. Prize Picks, I got 5 options. You can mix and match or play all 5. I like Chubb over 87.5, so a little bit better value there than underdog. London over 11 fantasy points. Ramondre over 52.5 rushing yards. Lamar Jackson over 287.5 total rushing and passing yards. Marcus Mariota over 201.5 passing yards. Again, Coin gets you 20% off for life. Locked in, you can upgrade anytime you like, weekly to monthly to annual, or add the tools if you decide you want to get in there. We just added a couple new features this week, some excitement in the Slack I saw earlier today as we announced that. Makes it easier. You have your dashboard up there. You can look at who they're playing, the spread, all that kind of stuff, and just add them live to any slate you want from our projections page dashboard on the NFL side. I'll be live Sunday morning, the Audible. Been going around 10:30 Eastern, 10:30 or 11 Eastern. It's kind of that window. Go for about 20, 30 minutes. The more the questions, the more things going. I remind some people, if you have a question now, you can throw it in the GC Warrior Room if you're in the Slack channel, because it's a premium member only chat. Put the question in now, and it'll be there for when I get to it Sunday. So you don't have to watch it live. Maybe you come watch it after church or something like that. But you don't have to wait till that morning to put questions in. As you think of them, go ahead and toss them in there, and I'll answer them all Sunday morning. College Football Pod with Bobby Burger will be out probably tomorrow morning. Per usual, big mid-season main event, 100K up top, the 444. I got my 4th ticket last night in the showdown. Looking to add 1 or 2 more there on tomorrow Friday night slate. He's got you covered for all that. Really enjoying college football so far. Been a good year. Looking to have a good showing on that this weekend. Be interesting to see what happens. I was kind of looking forward to it originally. Obviously, OU Texas this weekend, a lot of good games. Be interesting to see who the Sooners trot out there at quarterback and what that brings and what could be a high scoring game. A 14-game slate, so it's going to be a lot of breaking down. We're going to rely on Bobby heavy for that, and he always does a good job. One more reminder: we're almost through most of the NFL sign up, but if you are a PayPal member, we shut off PayPal. Back in March, we merged everything over to one processor, one vendor for us, which was good for us. If your subscription comes up, it will not auto-renew. You will get an email from us prior to that saying, hey, here's your code. Go sign up on the site. It keeps your price locked in. If you missed it, didn't see it, something's happened, email me at support@gupscorner.com or reach out to me on Twitter or Slack. We'll get you taken care of. We'll get that fixed up. We'll have another big push of it in January, February, and March as we march to the Masters. That's our biggest time of the year for renewals and all that kind of stuff. But I always want to say that on some of these pods because people, inevitably reach out to me and go, hey, I didn't realize my thing had subscribed. Sometimes our emails go to the spam or something like that, junk, and they never saw the code. So I have all that stored. No matter what, we'll get you taken care of. Don't worry about it. Little under the weather so far, but I got through this all right. Looking forward to tonight. Going to relax a little bit. Have the kiddos tomorrow, fall break. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Should be another awesome weekend of football. PGA got fired off a little bit ago. They're in Vegas, so they're 2 hours earlier, so they're just getting started. We'll see how that turns out. Awfully high week on Sungjae and Cantley. I was high on them, and I just stay with the trend. We just saw Chalk smash a couple times, and I like them. So we'll see how they roll out this week and how that tournament looks as we get about midway point through the fall swing for PGA as well. Hope you guys have a good week. Looking forward to it, and we'll talk to you soon.